And you can't live your life based on like what other people are gonna think, how other people are gonna feel, because at the end of the day, it's you. It's your life.
Right.
So it's
We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. It was being reported by TMZ and now Fox News. We are learning that Jay-Z is accused of a 13-year-old girl. That is new in the Diddy lawsuit.
Lori Harvey wasn't just another gorgeous face brushing up against Beyoncé's legendary temper. If only it were that simple. What's bubbling up now sounds way deeper and way darker than a little flirt at the Rock Nation brunch back in 2019. See, Lori's name keeps coming up in whispers that go beyond her rumored thing with Diddy. Word on the street is, during those wild parties he used to throw, Lori wasn't treated like a guest at all. She was allegedly being passed around like some kind of VIP favor. And Jay-Z? Insiders claim he wasn't just showing up for the champagne. People say he was part of the action. Now, remember when that clip dropped? Just 3 seconds of Lori smiling and batting her lashes at Jay-Z? Everyone saw Beyoncé's face tighten up, and fans thought it was just about jealousy. But insiders swear Queen B's anger had layers because she already knew what had gone down long before that video hit the internet. According to street whispers, this wasn't about cheating, it was about control. Lori's recent move to shut down her social media wasn't random either. Forget the beehive spamming her with emojis. This was the move of a woman who knows she's standing right on top of something explosive. So now, the real question everyone's asking is, what advice did she get before she went silent? Now let's take it back to that Rock Nation brunch for a second, because the way people tell it, you'd think Lori just caught Jay-Z's attention out of nowhere while Beyoncé was out there shutting it down in that killer outfit. But come on, nothing in Diddy's world happens by accident. Sources close to the scene say Lori didn't just show up that day, she was placed there, part of a slick, long-running plan Diddy's been playing for years. And Jay-Z? Insiders claim he wasn't just making small talk, he was allegedly getting a little too comfortable, like he was sampling the merchandise. Remember when that picture leaked online? The internet went wild. The beehive swarmed Lori's comments, dropping bumblebee emojis left and right until a page looked like a honeycomb. Then suddenly, Lori shut it all down like her peace of mind depended on it. But what if that wasn't just her dodging fan drama? What if it was damage control, because something real was about to leak and somebody wanted it buried before it hit the public eye? And don't forget, right after the backlash, Lori quietly unfollowed Diddy. Coincidence? Or was that her first move in cutting ties before the whole thing exploded in her face? Here's where it really gets messy. Lori wasn't Diddy's first project, and the streets say she definitely won't be his last. People claim he's turned access into a kind of currency, where women get close to power, thinking they're leveling up, only to find out later they're the ones being played. We've seen this movie before. Same script, just different faces. Cassie Van Dora, Adria Inglis, the list keeps growing. They all started off as Diddy's muses, shining bright at first, only to end up as cautionary tales once the truth came out. And Lori, she checked every box for his next headline. Gorgeous, connected, and with a famous family name that made her untouchable. Her stepdad, Steve Harvey, is America's favorite talk show uncle, always ready with advice and jokes. But have you noticed how quiet he's been through all this? No passionate monologues, no protective father energy, nothing but silence. And in a family that loud, silence don't sound like peace, it sounds like fear. So people are asking the question no one dares to say out loud. Did Steve know exactly what Lori was stepping into? Or did he just turn the other way because the connections and perks were too shiny to ignore? And then, of course, there's Beyoncé, Queen Bee herself, the woman who turned Lemonade into a worldwide anthem of power and healing. She made millions believe she could forgive Jay-Z for anything. But what if this time, forgiveness isn't on the table?
The best advice they've given you?
Just remember that you're the prize at all times.
Boom.
Best advice.
What if Beyoncé's playing chess, not checkers, using strategy instead of sympathy? Because let's keep it all the way real. Beyoncé doesn't just react to drama, she controls it. So if the whispers are true and Jay-Z was really mixed up in Diddy's shady games, then this isn't just a marriage problem. This might be the start of a power shift. This could be a career-ending move, no exaggeration. Think about it. Beyoncé got another massive tour lined up, a billion-dollar legacy to protect, and 3 kids watching her every step. You really think she's gonna let Jay-Z pull her name back into scandal territory again? Or is she just sitting back, quiet and patient, waiting for the perfect moment to slam down the hammer when it'll hit the hardest. Because if there's one thing we've learned about Beyoncé, it's that she never fights in the streets, she fights in the spotlight. And when she does, she always walks away the winner. But here's what almost no one's talking about. What happens when the music fades, the parties stop, and the cameras turn off? What's left when the lights go out and all that remains are the receipts? Diddy won't be locked up now, but that empire he built, it's still moving, still spinning behind the scenes like a shadow network that won't die down. And Jay-Z, the whispers say he could be next in line for some serious heat. The FBI's been hovering, lawsuits stacking up, and every day another name gets exposed to the light. It's like the whole industry's foundation is cracking right under them. So while everyone's busy dissecting Lori's smile or waiting on Beyoncé's next power move, let's not lose sight of the real story. This isn't just about Lori or about a couple or even one mogul. This is about an entire machine built on decades of exploitation. And if Lori Harvey was allegedly just another pawn in that twisted game, then the question is, who's about to be next? One thing's for sure, the party's over, and the cleanup, it's about to get real messy. But before we talk fallout, let's rewind to those legendary bashes, because everybody's heard the rumors, the white parties, the after-hours hangouts, and those so-called freak-offs.
Diddy was infamous for, what if those nights weren't just wild celebrity chaos? What if they were auditions? See, Diddy didn't just throw parties for fun, he curated them. Every name on that guest list was hand-picked, not just for fame, but for function. It wasn't about who was trending, it was about who could be used. Sure, you'd see the heavy hitters, Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Usher, the whole elite crowd, but mixed in were the hungry newcomers, the ones chasing a dream bigger than their bank accounts, willing to play whatever role it took just to get noticed. And Lori, she checked every single box. Young, beautiful, ambitious, and well-connected.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he said.
Are you kidding me?
He said that he confronted you about it before, and then even after
And he
that,
still
he did it
ain't saying what.
Exactly the kind of woman who'd get wined, dined, and then, allegedly, treated like just another appetizer on the table. It sounds harsh, but that's the pattern people keep describing. And let's not pretend this is anything new. These whispers have been floating around for years. The stories about secret NDAs, about girls walking into those events with stars in their eyes and leaving like they'd seen something they could never unsee. But no one spoke up, because in this industry, silence isn't just expected, it's required. You want a record deal? Keep quiet. You want that cameo in the next video? Don't ask questions, because the moment you open your mouth, the machine turns on you. Just look at Cassie Ventura, Adria English, and others who tried to tell their truth. Next thing you know, they're drowning in lawsuits and smear campaigns. That's the thing about power. It doesn't just protect the guilty, it buries the brave ones who try to speak out. Power doesn't just protect itself, it destroys anything bold enough to threaten it. That's how this game works. And now, the whole board's starting to shake. Here's the real twist. Diddy's locked up, but Jay-Z, he's sweating bullets. The walls are closing in fast, and the one person who could actually take him down isn't a judge, a lawyer, or even the FBI, it's his wife. Because if Beyoncé's taught us anything, it's that she doesn't just walk away from a man, she erases him from existence. So while the world's busy debating whether Lori Harvey is the victim or the villain in this chaos, the real question everyone's whispering is, what does Beyoncé know? And more importantly, what's she waiting to do with that knowledge? Because if there's one thing we've learned about the Carters, it's that they don't take losses, they strategize. Every move they make is calculated, and every silence is deliberate. And if Jay-Z's name even touches those lawsuits tied to Diddy, you can bet Beyoncé's already 10 steps ahead, setting the stage, moving in silence, and preparing to make her play. Because when she finally strikes, it's not going to be some messy scandal splashed across gossip sites. It's going to be a full-blown industry massacre. Now, let's spin it back to where it all began. Because this saga didn't start with Lori Harvey. Oh no, it didn't start with Lori Harvey at all. This story goes way back to when Diddy was still rolling as Puff Daddy and Jay-Z was just another hungry kid from Brooklyn chasing his first big break. These two didn't just rise together, they ruled together. And the way they built that empire, let's just say the blueprint wasn't written in ink, it was written in blood. We're talking about the wild 90s, the golden age of hip-hop, when the industry was ruthless and the rules were simple. If you wanted in, you had to play dirty. And Diddy, he didn't just play the game, he owned it. Bad Boy Records wasn't just a label, it was a kingdom. And kingdoms like that aren't built on pure talent, they're built on secrets, silence, and survival. Remember that infamous nightclub shooting back in '99? The one where Diddy walked away untouched while his protege, Shine, ended up taking the hit? Or that same year when Jay-Z got caught up in a stabbing case, only to slide out with probation? Coincidence? Please. These men didn't just escape their scandals, they came out stronger. Because in their world, a criminal charge isn't a stain, it's a badge of power.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations he assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both.
The more chaos they outrun, the more untouchable they become. So when stories surface about wild parties, shady deals, or women getting caught in the crossfire of fame, people start asking, was it ever about the music, or was it always about control, money, and power? Because if you look closely, this industry's biggest legends didn't just build careers, they built empires of silence. And breaking that silence, that's where everything starts to crumble. Let's talk about power for a second, because this isn't just about what these men allegedly did, it's about what everyone else allowed them to do. The industry looked the other way. The media glamorized it, calling it the lifestyle, and us fans, we played our part too. We bought the albums, streamed the hits, rocked the merch, and helped turn them into legends. And now here we are, pretending to be shocked as the receipts start rolling in. But deep down, we knew. Maybe we didn't have the names or the dates, but we felt it in our gut. That uneasy feeling every time another headline broke, every time another woman stepped forward with a story, every time one of those parties ended with more mystery than music. So when we look at Lori Harvey now, her silent Instagram, her deleted comments, her sudden disappearance from the spotlight, we gotta ask, what's she really scared of? Is it the beehive flooding her with emojis, or is it something way more dangerous? Because let's be real, Beyoncé's fan base might be intense, but they don't have the kind of reach that Diddy's world does. They don't have the kind of power. If Lori really was tangled up in that scene, if those insider whispers about her being passed around have even a shred of truth, then her biggest fear isn't public backlash, it's the men behind the curtain. The ones who've spent decades building an industry where silence is the price of survival. And that's the part no one wants to admit. The power isn't just in the fame, it's in the fear.
These are the same power players with lawyers on speed dial and NDAs stacked higher than the Billboard charts. And that brings us right back to Beyoncé. Because if there's anyone in this industry with the clout, money, and influence to take this entire empire down, it's her. She's not just a wife or a mom, she's a billionaire boss, a global icon, and right now, she's reportedly furious.
To the evidentiary value, yes, it happened 24 years ago, right? More than 24 years ago. But in the allegations, there's a few things. Number one, there's allegation that another celebrity was present at the time, right? In addition to other people. Number two, there's the claim by the victim, right? That she left, that she went and she was seen by a gas attendant who...
While the world's caught up debating whether Lori Harvey's a victim or a willing player, and the tabloids are busy obsessing over who smiled at who, Beyoncé's in the background playing the long game. Because if Jay-Z's name is anywhere near those legal documents, and if the FBI really is circling the same empire Diddy once ruled, you better believe Beyoncé is not just planning a divorce, she's plotting destruction. Because when Queen Bee makes a move, it's not about revenge, it's about erasing legacies. She doesn't throw punches, she lights matches. And if she's truly decided to burn it all down, then trust, nothing and no one will walk away untouched. This isn't just a messy celebrity scandal, it's a power shift in motion. A story about what happens when the queen finally decides to torch the kingdom she helped build.
And when Beyoncé is the one holding the match, nothing survives the flames. But let's not get it twisted. This cycle didn't start with Lori, Diddy, or even Jay-Z. It goes way back to the year 2000, when the music world was still running on smoke, mirrors, and backroom deals that would make anyone's stomach turn. Picture it, a teenage girl, wide-eyed and full of dreams, stepping into one of Diddy's infamous after-parties, not realizing she was walking straight into the lion's den. She's handed a drink, something sweet, something strong, and the next thing she remembers, she's waking up in a room that isn't hers, and she's not alone. Standing over her are two of the biggest names in the music world, Diddy and Jay-Z. Now, we've all heard the lawsuits, the denials, and those carefully worded PR statements meant to clean it all up. But let's pause for a second and face the real question. What kind of man looks at someone young and sees an opportunity instead of a person? And what kind of industry allows that to keep happening year after year like it's just part of the game? Because this wasn't some isolated nightmare. This was the blueprint. And if that's not dark enough, we've got to talk about those infamous white parties, the so-called elite gatherings where Diddy played gatekeeper to fame. But here's the chilling twist. Getting in wasn't just about your outfit or your status. It was about your silence.
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system can only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to...
According to multiple claims and reports, those parties weren't just wild nights of luxury. They were something far more sinister. Guests described how drinks were allegedly spiked, how rites of passage were twisted into predatory acts dressed up as opportunities. These weren't random rumors. They were consistent stories, repeated through lawsuits and testimonies over the years. One account even describes a teenage boy, barely 16, being promised a chance to perform, only to be led into a private room where the energy shifted from excitement to fear. That's when the ugly truth about this so-called power circle began to surface, because behind the music, the fame, and the flashing lights, there was a pattern, a dark system built on silence, control, and exploitation. One former security guard came forward claiming that after drinks at a 2006 bash, things went way too far, and what he thought was a casual night turned into something deeply traumatic. And then there's Adria English, a former adult film star who says she was groomed and pushed into a world of exploitation at those same glittering events, where the champagne sparkled just as bright as the threats whispered behind closed doors. So let's ask the real question. If that was the scene in the early 2000s, if that was the so-called normal back then, what on earth was going down in 2019 when Lori Harvey showed up at the Rock Nation brunch all smiles with Diddy's hand resting on her back? Because if history really repeats itself, then that brunch wasn't just a photo op. It might have been the continuation of something that's been hidden in plain sight for decades.
If you're a halfway intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some niggas keep getting?
Right. And here's where it turns downright disturbing, because this wasn't just one man's twisted behavior. It was an industry-wide open secret. And yes, the receipts are out there. Remember when Usher talked to Howard Stern and casually dropped hints about the strange things he saw at Diddy's house when he was just 13? The adult situations, the locked doors you were warned never to open, the kind of experiences no kid should be exposed to. That interview sent chills through people who were finally connecting the dots. And then there's Justin Bieber, the golden boy of pop, who once said he spent 48 hours straight with Diddy at just 15 years old. The two even joked on camera about getting girls and living large, while Diddy smirked and said, "Everything ain't for everybody." Looking back now, that line hits different, because if even a fraction of these stories are true, we're not just talking about bad choices or wild parties. We're looking at a culture of control that's been protected, polished, and sold as entertainment for years. It's kind of wild how that old clip of Justin and Diddy suddenly started making the rounds again right after those FBI raids, isn't it? Like out of nowhere, the internet remembered, and it hit completely different this time. And let's not forget when Khloe Kardashian casually dropped on Keeping Up with the Kardashians that she once went to one of Diddy's so-called naked parties.
That major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious.
And guess who she said was there too? Yup, Justin Bieber. So here's the question that nobody in the mainstream wants to ask. Was Justin really just a guest at those gatherings, or was he being prepped for something entirely different? Because the pattern is starting to look a little too familiar, don't you think? Now, about those FBI raids last year, what they reportedly found was way beyond what anyone expected. This wasn't just a couple of sketchy photos or some old text messages. Oh no, what agents uncovered sounded more like a scene out of a thriller. Over 1,000 bottles of lube, enough to stock an entire pharmacy, and an arsenal of AR-15s that could arm a small militia. And that's just the stuff they admitted to finding.
So it makes you wonder, what else is still hidden? What's tucked away in those walls, in the safes, on those hard drives, or sitting in secret storage boxes under fake names? What memories are locked away in the minds of the people who've been paid off to stay quiet? Because if this is what investigators found, imagine what they didn't. And the scariest part, who's still out there protecting it all? Fast forward to now, Diddy's behind bars. Jay-Z's legal team is scrambling to keep his name clean, and yet the machine they built, it's still humming along like nothing happened. Meanwhile, Lori Harvey scrubbed her Instagram clean, but the internet never forgets. The photos are still floating around. Her arm draped around Diddy's waist, her smile flashing at those high-end events where the real deals were being made behind closed doors. And Steve Harvey, still silent, not a word. Because really, what can you say when your stepdaughter's name is tangled up in something this massive?
Blistering statement. Jay-Z accuses Jane Doe's attorney of trying to blackmail him. He said further, quote, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away."
This deep and this dangerous. And now here we are, the calm before the explosion. Diddy's locked away, Jay-Z's reputation is hanging by a thread, and Beyoncé, she's moving in silence like a storm just waiting to hit. The internet thinks this whole saga's slowing down, but insiders say the real story hasn't even started yet. Because behind all the headlines, there's a scramble happening. Hard drives disappearing, NDAs being reinforced, and people who once bragged about being part of the inner circle suddenly ghosting their entire friend lists. The silence isn't peace, it's panic. And that silence always means someone's getting ready to flip. The whispers say more lawsuits are coming, names we haven't even heard yet, faces we thought were untouchable. It's not just music execs anymore. There are producers, stylists, even top-tier influencers being pulled into this mess. And let's just say, when those next court documents drop, the internet's gonna need a minute to breathe.
With the girl, and he was asking about her, and then he was asking me stuff like, you know, would you be interested in, like, you know, somebody watching? He was just asking some really, really bugged out questions. And I still have those emails. I still have all that. You know, so like that's one of the things that I was going to include in the book. I'm just trying to figure out.
Meanwhile, Beyoncé is reportedly preparing her next project, and people are starting to wonder if it's really just an album or a carefully planned statement. Because Queen Bee doesn't speak until it's time to end the conversation, and when she doesn't drop songs, she drops bombs. And then there's Lori Harvey, back in public, smiling again. But this time, that smile looks different, like someone who's seen too much and learned to play it smart. She's not saying a word, and maybe that's her power move. Maybe silence is her survival. But here's the thing, no matter how much the machine tries to cover it up, the cracks are showing. The same people who built this empire of secrets are now fighting to keep their names out of headlines, their messages off the record, and their ghosts from coming back. Because this isn't just another scandal. It's a reckoning. The industry that used to sell dreams is being forced to face its nightmares. And if history's any clue, this is just the first rumble before the quake. Because when truth finally hits the spotlight, it doesn't whisper, it roars. You can feel it in the air. Something big is about to break. The empire that once seemed untouchable is shaken brick by brick, lie by lie. What started as whispers in the shadows has turned into a full-on storm. And now the walls these moguls built out of money, fear, and silence are cracking wide open. behind closed doors, the damage control is in overdrive. Teams of lawyers are scrambling, NDAs are being re-signed, and PR agents are spinning stories faster than they can type. But you can't bury the truth forever, not when too many people know the same dark details. Insiders say several witnesses have already spoken to investigators, some even handing over receipts that could blow this whole operation apart.
And we may actually see one of the biggest divorces in Hollywood is because Jay-Z is up next to be exposed.
Meanwhile, Beyoncé's next move is still the world's biggest mystery. People close to her claim she's done being quiet. She's allegedly working on something that'll change the narrative forever. Whether that means a documentary, a visual album, or a tell-all masterpiece, we don't know yet. But one thing's certain, when she finally steps forward, the industry won't be the same again. And as for Jay-Z, he's keeping a low profile, but the tension around him is heavy. Those who used to call him mentor are suddenly keeping their distance. Everyone's protecting their image, their brand, their legacy, because when the empire starts to crumble, loyalty vanishes first. Then there's Harvey, trying to rebuild, to move on, to outshine the shadows that once surrounded her name. But every photo, every public appearance gets dissected like a clue. People can't decide if she's free or if she's just learned to survive with grace under fire. Either way, she's still standing, and that says something. What we're seeing now isn't just a scandal, it's a collapse. The same power players who thought they could rewrite the rules are realizing that the truth doesn't stay buried. It just waits for the right moment to erupt. And when it does, it won't be quiet or pretty. It'll be loud, chaotic, and unforgettable. Because every empire built on secrets eventually faces the same ending, ash and accountability. If you've been following this journey, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this story to keep the conversation alive. Drop a comment below. What do you think really went down behind the scenes? Because this saga might be wrapping up, but the truth? Oh, it's just getting started.